Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a world that would make your stomach turn. A world where the air is thick with the stench of garbage and human waste, where taking a bath is considered a luxury and diseases lurk around every corner. Welcome to the Middle Ages, quite possibly the grossest period in human history. Picture this: narrow, winding streets packed with people who haven't bathed in weeks, maybe even months. Waste thrown from windows, rats scurrying between your feet, and the constant fear of deadly epidemics. Would you survive? I'm betting most of us wouldn't last a day. Between the romantic notions of brave knights, magnificent castles, and powerful monarchs, there's a shocking truth that history books often gloss over: the absolutely ridiculous state of hygiene during medieval times. This isn't just another boring history lesson. This is a journey into a world so bizarre, so disgusting, that it'll make you grateful for your modern bathroom and shower. In the next few minutes, you'll discover how people lived, and more surprisingly, how they survived, in an era drowning in filth, plagued by diseases and riddled with habits that will make your jaw drop. We're talking about a time when medical wisdom meant that washing your face could supposedly make you go blind, and where the smell of your body was just another accessory. Get ready to be shocked, entertained, and maybe a little nauseated. This is Medieval Hygiene Exposed, where we pull back the curtain on the most revolting secrets of the Middle Ages. If you love diving deep into historical mysteries, if you're hungry for stories that are stranger than fiction, then smash that like button, subscribe to the Medieval Archives, and prepare for a journey into the most unbelievable era of human history. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Bathing? More like a monthly miracle. Let me blow your mind with the absolute horror of medieval personal hygiene. In the Middle Ages, taking a bath wasn't just a luxury, it was practically a mythical event. Imagine going an entire month, or even 2, without washing yourself. And when bath time finally came around, it was nothing like the relaxing spa experience we know today. Most people would maybe dip themselves in cold or lukewarm water, if they were lucky. Soap? Forget about it. Shampoo? Not a chance. Here's a mind-blowing medieval belief that will make your skin crawl. People actually thought that hot water was dangerous. They believed that warm water would open up your pores and make your body vulnerable to diseases. Can you believe that? In their twisted logic, staying dirty was somehow safer than getting clean. But wait, it gets even more bizarre. Medieval folks weren't completely hopeless about their, shall we say, fragrant condition. They developed some truly creative ways to mask their powerful body odor. Enter the medieval perfume game, a world of oils, herbs, and strong fragrances designed to cover up what can only be described as a truly horrific personal stench. Want to hear something that'll make you laugh and cringe at the same time? Many people believed that washing your face could actually make you go blind. Yes, you heard that right. In their minds, water touching your face was some kind of mystical threat to your eyesight. So instead of cleaning themselves, people would just pile on more perfume and hope for the best. Wealthy people had it slightly better. They might use rose water, lavender, or other herbs to create a somewhat more pleasant smell. But for the average person, it was a world of pure olfactory nightmare. Imagine walking down a medieval street. The smell must have been so powerful it could knock you out. Doctors of the time had some truly absurd medical advice. Some believed that bathing too frequently could weaken the body and make you more susceptible to illness. Others thought that dirt actually protected the skin. It's like they were living in a completely different reality from what we know today. And here's a royal twist that will shock you. Even kings and queens weren't exempt from this hygiene horror show. Queen Elizabeth I of England was known to brag about taking a bath only twice a year, and get this, she was considered clean by the standards of her time. So the next time you step into a hot shower or enjoy a luxurious bubble bath, take a moment to appreciate just how far we've come. The medieval world wasn't just a different time, it was a completely different universe of personal cleanliness. Can you imagine surviving in a world like this? Drop a comment below and let me know. Would you have made it in the Middle Ages? Buckle up, history lovers, because we're about to dive into the most revolting urban environment you could ever imagine. Forget everything you know about modern sanitation. Medieval cities were basically one giant open-air sewer. Imagine walking down a street where there are no trash cans, no sewage systems, and absolutely zero concern for cleanliness. In the Middle Ages, the street wasn't just a place to walk, it was literally everyone's toilet. And I mean everyone's toilet. Here's a gruesome daily routine that will make your stomach turn. People would simply open their windows and dump everything out. And by everything, I mean everything. Human waste, animal waste, leftover food, kitchen scraps, all of it would come flying out of windows, directly onto the street below. Can you imagine looking up and seeing a cascade of, well, let's just say, unpleasant materials heading your way? Some cities were so notorious for this practice that they actually had warning signs. Yes, you heard that right. Signs that basically said, "Watch out for falling waste." It was like a disgusting version of dodgeball, except the stakes were much, much higher. But wait, it gets worse. These streets weren't just dirty. They were a literal breeding ground for disease. Pigs, rats, and all sorts of animals would roam freely, rolling around in this nightmarish landscape of filth. These animals weren't just gross. They were mobile disease factories. Rats would walk through human waste, then scurry into homes, spreading infections faster than you could say medieval hygiene. Let me paint you a picture of a typical medieval street. Imagine walking down a narrow path, ankle-deep in a mixture of mud, waste, and who knows what else. The smell would be so powerful, it could make a modern person faint instantly. People would wear special wooden platforms called pattens just to keep themselves above the muck. Kind of like medieval platform shoes, but way less fashionable and way more practical. Here's a mind-blowing fact. In some major European cities, the situation was so bad that entire streets would become virtual rivers of waste during rainy seasons. The runoff would mix with everything on the ground, creating a toxic soup that would flow through the city. Can you imagine walking home and literally wading through a street of human and animal waste? Wealthy people had it slightly better. They could afford servants to help clean up or live in areas with slightly better conditions. But for the average person, life was a daily battle against filth, disease, and absolutely horrifying living conditions. This wasn't just gross, it was deadly. These street conditions were a major reason why diseases spread so quickly in medieval times. The Black Death, one of the most devastating pandemics in human history, found its perfect breeding ground in these filthy urban environments. Next time you complain about your city's garbage collection or street cleaning, just remember, you're living in absolute luxury compared to medieval city dwellers. Could you survive a single day in a medieval city? Drop a comment below and let me know how long you think you'd last in this waste-filled wonderland. Prepare yourself for the most terrifying chapter in medieval history, a horror story so brutal, it makes modern zombie apocalypse movies look like child's play. I'm talking about the Black Plague, the pandemic that would go on to wipe out 1/3 of Europe's entire population. Picture this. A world so filthy, so absolutely disgusting, that it became the perfect breeding ground for the most devastating disease in human history. The Black Death wasn't just a disease, it was a medieval nightmare that would transform entire societies overnight. Let's break down how medieval filth created the perfect storm for this catastrophic pandemic. Imagine streets literally swimming in garbage, waste piling up everywhere, and rats, millions of rats, running absolutely wild. These weren't just ordinary rats. These were disease-carrying machines crawling through mountains of trash, spreading infection with every single step. But here's the truly mind-blowing part. Medieval people had zero understanding of how diseases actually spread. While rats and fleas were basically conducting a biological warfare campaign, doctors and medical experts were coming up with the most absurd medical advice you could possibly imagine. Want to know the most shocking medical treatment of the time? Doctors literally recommended smelling feces as a way to protect yourself from illness. Yes, you heard that right. Their brilliant medical strategy was to stick your nose into human waste, believing that the smell would somehow ward off disease. Can you imagine a doctor today telling you to sniff a pile of poop to stay healthy? Absolutely ridiculous. The numbers are absolutely mind-blowing. Historians estimate that the Black Plague killed approximately 12 million people across Europe. To put that into perspective, imagine if every single person in New York City, Los Angeles, and Chicago suddenly vanished. That's the scale of devastation we're talking about. Medieval cities were like the perfect disease factories. Narrow streets packed with people, no concept of sanitation, animals roaming freely, waste everywhere. It was an epidemiologist's worst nightmare. Rats would crawl through this toxic environment, picking up infected fleas, and then spread those fleas everywhere they went. These tiny creatures became the most deadly weapon in human history, and the medical experts of the time, they were completely lost. Some believed the plague was a punishment from God. Others thought bad air, or miasma, was responsible for spreading the disease. They had no concept of germs, no understanding of how infections actually worked. Doctors would dress in these absolutely terrifying outfits, long leather coats, massive bird-like masks filled with herbs and spices, believing that these strange costumes would protect them from the bad air spreading the disease. It looked like something straight out of a horror movie. The plague didn't just kill people, it destroyed entire social structures. Entire villages were wiped out. Farms stopped producing food, trade routes collapsed. It was a complete societal breakdown caused by a combination of absolute filth and total medical ignorance. So, history hunters, think you could survive in this disease-ridden world? Would you have made it through the Black Plague? Hey, speaking of medieval madness, did you know that smelling feces was considered a legitimate medical treatment? I'm not making this up. If you're loving these absolutely wild historical revelations, do me a favor. Hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the Medieval Archives. Drop a comment below. Could you survive in this disease-infested medieval world? I want to hear your survival strategies. Toothbrush, more like tooth nightmare. Welcome to the medieval dental horror show, where oral hygiene was nothing short of a brutal comedy of errors. Forget everything you know about dental care. In the Middle Ages, toothbrushes were as mythical as unicorns. Instead of the nice, soft, bristled brushes we use today, people got creative. And by creative, I mean absolutely terrifying. We're talking about cleaning your teeth with sticks, rocks, and old rags. Yes, you heard that right. Rocks in your mouth. But here's the most mind-blowing part. People actually had some seriously twisted ideas about dental health. Want to know the medieval definition of a beautiful smile? Rotten teeth. That's right. They believed that having terrible teeth was a sign of wisdom. The more disgusting your teeth looked, the more people thought you were intelligent. Imagine a world where if someone walked in with bright white teeth, you'd immediately think they were a fraud. In medieval times, white teeth were suspicious. People would assume you were wearing fake teeth made of bone or ivory. So if you had a nice smile, you were basically considered a con artist. Let me paint you a picture of medieval dental hygiene. Instead of toothpaste, people would use everything from salt and chalk to charcoal and even crushed bones. Some would chew on herbs like mint or sage to freshen their breath. But let's be real, in a world where bathing was a monthly event, fresh breath was a pretty relative term. And get this, the wealthy weren't much better. Royalty, who you'd think would have the best dental care, were just as gross as everyone else. Take Queen Elizabeth I of England, a monarch so clean that she bragged about taking a bath only twice a year. By medieval standards, she was considered a hygiene superstar. By our standards, she'd be a walking biohazard. Dental problems were basically a death sentence in medieval times. No dentists, no anesthesia, no modern medical treatments. And a toothache. Your options were pretty much limited to prayer, some horrifying home remedies, or having the tooth pulled out with what was essentially a medieval version of pliers. No numbing, no comfort, just pure, unadulterated pain. Some cultures believed that toothworms were responsible for cavities. Yes, worms. They thought tiny creatures were burrowing holes in your teeth. Doctors would perform all sorts of bizarre rituals to remove these imaginary worms, including burning strange herbs and chanting even stranger incantations. The really tragic part. People with completely rotted mouths were considered completely normal. Missing teeth? No problem. Blackened, decaying teeth? Just another day in medieval life. In fact, having a full set of healthy teeth was so rare that it was almost suspicious. So history hunters, think you could survive with medieval dental care? Would you be brave enough to clean your teeth with a stick? Drop a comment below. What's the weirdest way you would clean your teeth if you lived in the Middle Ages? I want to hear your most creative and gross dental survival strategies. Wow, just wow. We've journeyed through the absolute grossest period in human history, the Middle Ages. A time so unbelievably filthy that it makes our worst days look like a five-star spa experience. Let's take a moment to really digest what we've learned. The medieval world wasn't just dirty. It was a perfect storm of superstition, ignorance, and absolute biological chaos. A world where taking a bath was considered dangerous, where streets were open sewers, and where medical advice could literally kill you faster than the disease itself. But here's a mind-blowing thought that'll make you pause. What if, hundreds of years from now, people look back at our time and think we were absolutely disgusting? Imagine future humans laughing at our plastic waste, our processed foods, or our current medical practices. Just like we're shocked by medieval hygiene, someone might be equally horrified by our everyday habits. Think about it. We have soap, we have modern medicine, we have incredible sanitation systems, we take hot showers, use toothbrushes, and have figured out how diseases actually spread. But are we perfect? Not even close. Future generations might look at our world and think we were absolute barbarians in our own way. The medieval period teaches us something crucial. Humanity is always evolving. What seems completely normal today might be considered absolutely ridiculous tomorrow. We're constantly learning, constantly improving, constantly pushing the boundaries of what we know. So here's my challenge to you, history hunters and hygiene heroes. Never stop questioning, never stop learning. The moment we think we know everything is the moment we stop growing. If you've enjoyed diving deep into this absolutely disgusting but completely fascinating journey through medieval hygiene, I've got a mission for you. First, smash that like button like it's the last clean surface in a medieval city. Share this video with your friends. Trust me, they need to know how good they have it today. And most importantly, subscribe to the Medieval Archives. We've got more mind-blowing, stomach-turning historical revelations coming your way. Drop a comment below. What modern habit do you think future generations will find completely gross? I want to hear your wildest predictions. Remember, history isn't just about the past. It's about understanding how far we've come and imagining how far we might go. Until next time, stay curious, stay clean, and stay awesome.